thinking I won't dare to make it.
When the children was out there in the yard, and they never run up against that white car there and knock that boy down. And he was in here asleep. Lisa was. I was talking to the little boy, Billy Joe, he was sitting over there with me. And when that car come in here, he said, zee! He stopped right there. I said, what in the hell is the matter? That's what I said. I don't know. Let's tell you the truth. I'm trying to tell you the best I can. I was sitting there. I didn't never move. Didn't never move. Said God was with me, I didn't never move. Who would go? That was left-handed folk like that. You'd allowed to get killed anytime. From there. That's true. That's all I know. That TV had done blowed out. It wasn't down here. Wasn't nobody watching no TV. I was sitting there. I was roaming. That's what I was doing. Me and the little boy sitting there. I called around by me, and I'm glad he did.
We're dissatisfied with the attitude of the Commodores in terms of how they view Montgomery and Montgomeryans, especially and specifically the black Montgomery community. You know, we became concerned when the Commodores came into Montgomery and purchased 6 Mercedes-Benz from a local dealer. Now, we wasn't as concerned about that as much as they bypassed or looked over a black salesman. And 1 month later, after they purchased those cars, which it cost in excess of $25,000 each, the black salesman was unemployed. He was fired.
I don't think that we should be pressured into buying from anybody. I'm sure that there are so many black people out there that have bought cars from white salesmen, you know. But, you know, since the Commodores are supposed to be top of the entertainment business, everybody shines a light on us and say, well, no, you can't do this. You've got to do certain things. I think it's unfair to us. I think the guys should be able to do whatever in the world they want to do. They work for what they have. They should be able to go where they want to and to whom they want to. I do understand the fact that that this salesman was supposed to have been there. I've never met him before in my life that I can recall. I don't even, if he walked in the door, I probably wouldn't even know him. I understand he cried while he stood by. While he stood by and cried, we went by him and bought the cars. I worked out the deal on the cars, William King. And like I said before, I never saw the man. Now, he may have talked to anybody else in the group. He may have talked to whoever he said, I don't know. But he never talked to me. So they never approached me. I never even saw him. And then come to find out later that he sold used cars. Now, we didn't go in to buy a used car.
We also became concerned when the Commodores had on local radio stations that they would be here in Montgomery on the coldest day of the year we've had this year, and they was not there. And people went out, took their children out to get autographs of the Commodores, see the Commodores, and not one of them was there. And we feel that the Commodores have not shown Montgomery the kind of respect that it would other cities.
We are very sorry that the mix-up ever happened about us canceling a performance. But like I said in the press party yesterday, we had either 2 choices: to try to do the performance with everybody trying to get there. And what everybody means the equipment, the trucks, the buses from Seattle, Washington, and then finding out that they couldn't make it, and then tell 14,000 people that, I'm sorry, you bought your tickets and you're in here sitting down, but we can't perform. So we knew the best thing to do was to cancel and reschedule it for another time, and which was the right thing to do.
Many people do not realize the volume of commercial and private traffic on the rivers near Montgomery. Barges such as this one are regular sights on the Alabama River, and with the completion of the Coosa and Tallapoosa River systems in the 1980s, there will be even more traffic. Pat Dixon, who operates a marina on the Alabama River, says they have been aware of more and more commercial and private traffic over the past few years.
We've seen an increase in launchings from around 80 boats a month, and our best months to around 300, 350, and we think that'll go up to around 400 to 500 next summer. Commercial traffic, by that I mean barge traffic, we have right behind us over here a real active port. It's a chemical fertilizer operation, and they bring probably 4 or 5 barges up here every month and a half, 2 months. The gravel industry located north of Montgomery is continually hauling gravel, 3-4 barges a day. This, of course, was non-existent 5 years ago, so you can't put a percentage on an increase when it's brand new business.
What effect will the development of the Coosa and Tallapoosa riverways and other development along the river have on the traffic?
Well, as the river has developed more, we'll see the same thing that we've seen. We started selling gas here. It took us 3 years to sell 4,000 gallons. Now we sell 4,000 a month, approximately, and that's because there have been no facilities, so there was no traffic. There are facilities being built at Hurtsboro, all up and down the river. A great recreation park is being built out near Maxwell Field for the public, and we think it's going to be as busy as Lake Martin during the summertime.
Are there any drawbacks to a large increase in river traffic? Are there going to be some things that are going to have to be done to ensure, say, the stability of the river?
I don't think so. This river is raised to a minimum 9-foot channel, but it's staying in very old banks. We're not talking about running over into new areas, and we're not talking about banks that slough. The barge traffic is kind of interesting. They create less of a real wake problem than speedboats do, so we're glad to see them.
Development along the Alabama River near Montgomery in both the commercial and the private sector continues to grow at a steady pace, and that's making a lot of folks happy. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News on the Alabama River.
This is the first year the state of Alabama has used a centralized method for the registration of boats. In the past, such registration has been taken care of in each of the state's 67 counties by the probate office. Noni Williams, the boat registration supervisor for the Marine Division of the State Department of Conservation, says the new system does have its problems, mainly that of being slower.
We have extended the deadline to March 1st for the following reasons. Number one, we were late getting the paper to have the certificates printed on. And number two, we are getting in quite a few paper applications, which takes a great deal of time to process. We have to check all of these on the computer, and we have to correct all errors. Now, on all these paper applications, we have errors on just about every one of them that have to be corrected before the application is processed.
And how many applications are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about thousands a day, right now. Anywhere we get in anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 a day to be processed. And we have, previously we've had 180,000 boat owners. We expect that to go up to 200,000 this year.
What are some of the other problems?
Well, we're having problems with checks not being made out properly, and we have to send letters back to all these boat owners and wait for these to come back in to be processed. And we have had quite a few computer problems this year. Some information was reversed on the computer, which has taken time. And we also have, by us having to send our applications to another place to be processed when we finish here, we've had some to go out without decal emblems, and all of that has created problems for us. And we've also had some to go out without people even paying for them.
What are some of the changes you foresee for this next year, maybe to help things along a little faster?
Well, next year we're going to try to have more in-house processing. We'll probably try to have our own key punchers and our own computer operators, which could help us tremendously.
What will be the general effect to the average boat owner of this delay or this extension of the deadlines? Will the licenses be good until the new deadline, and what will exactly be the posture of it?
Yes, the license will be good until the new deadline. In fact, I don't think we will be issuing any citations or anything this year until we get all of this cleared up.
So the boat owners don't have to worry about that?
No, they don't really have to worry about it, as long as they have. Now, we have a new application here with a little stub at the bottom, which is known as a temporary boat certificate that they can use while we're getting their applications processed.
In the meantime, Ms. Williams says that no citations will be issued unless it's a flagrant violation. If the registration decals are late in coming, they suggest you present the stub from the bottom of your application as proof of registration. Marine patrols will also accept canceled check stubs as proof of registration. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
It didn't look good for Alabama last night when United Press International named USC as the #1 football team in the nation, though Alabama was named winner of the MacArthur Bowl, presented to what's considered to be the #1 football team by a panel representing the Football Writers Association. So it was another sweet victory for Alabama this morning when they topped the AP list with 38 first-place votes to Southern Cal's 19. Considered to be more prestigious, the AP poll is voted by a 68-member panel of sportscasters and writers from all sections of the country. It was Alabama's victory over Penn State in the Sugar Bowl that won them national championship honors. The Sugar Bowl was a must-win situation. Penn State went into the game with the only undefeated collegiate record and the #1 ranking. Many considered this the game for the national championship, though USC knew they had a chance for #1 if they beat Michigan State in the Rose Bowl. They won, but with a controversial touchdown call in the process. USC was the only team to beat Alabama in regular season play. But Alabama had it all together in the Sugar Bowl. They out-defensed what was considered to be the best defensive game in the collegiate ranks. In the fourth quarter, with 1 yard to go for the touchdown that would tie the score, Penn State just couldn't make it past Alabama's determined defensive line. Linebacker Barry Krause pushed back Penn State's ball carrier, saving the touchdown and the game for the Crimson Tide. For that, Krause was named Most Valuable Player. The national championship capped a lengthy comeback for Alabama. They won their last championship back in 1965. But there have been several times since then the Tide and the fans thought they should be #1. Last year's second-place ranking to Notre Dame is an especially bitter memory for the Tide. But that's all in the past. 1978's a different story, one with a happy ending. Alabama #1, the national championship team. Glenda Webb, WSFA TV News.
Set a hearing on a recommendation for January 23rd, 1979.
In Boston, work was in Chisholm, and Highland Gardens, and in Brookview, and King Hill, and Capitol Parkway, and
Unanimous. Motion carries and resolution adopted.
And the person that's doing this has no care or concern about human life. And we know, we have a few leads as to the type of automobile used. We know that there's some people in town that knows about this. The people that done it has done some bragging in some places, and we are asking the public to use a secret witness telephone and call the police department. And as you know, the council tonight passed a resolution authorizing a $1,000 reward for the person giving us information that might lead to the arrest and conviction of this individual. We're prepared to give that person that confidentiality that wants to call the police department and tell us about this. We, as I said, he's done some bragging, and we know that there was somebody else with him at the time he done it. And we know that in a length of time, we'll probably know who done it. This could result in a death out there, future actions of this type, maybe even to the man that uses the shotgun out there. And we just would like to ask the public, we're begging with them to come forward with this information, and let's stop this maniac before he does kill someone.
The request to delay action on allowing the telephone company to implement a charge for directory assistance calls came from Commissioner Jim Ziegler. The proposal, which South Central Bell Telephone Company says would generate about $5.5 million in savings and new revenue, would place a 20-cent charge on each directory assistance call after the first 5 in a month. Commissioner Ziegler said he wanted to delay a decision on any order because he was concerned over some inequitable situations which might occur.
Under the present plan that's under consideration, that person is charged just the same as someone who calls a number that he could have gotten from the book. that's a little unfair, and I'm working on a way to hopefully try to rectify that situation. Also, I think the timing of the direct assistance charges was not well thought through because, for instance, in Montgomery and the surrounding areas, the phone book is outdated now, and there'll be a new one coming out the 1st of February. And yet they're talking about putting on this direct assistance charge January 15th. And I think that is unfair and should not have been considered in that fashion.
Will you come back with a definite plan next Thursday so that the Commission can act on it?
If I can get it completed, yes, and I expect that I will have a proposal in writing.
An order signed by the Commission ends 8-party lines for South Central Bell customers and creates some new exchanges. Telephone executive Tom Somerville says the order directs the utility to use an anticipated $2.5 million in federal income tax savings to reduce telephone rates. But in essence, it means nothing revenue-wise to the company.
Point of view, of course, it's going to mean it's going to mean a lower monthly bill. Those who, as you know, the zone charge, $2.95 zone charge is being reduced by a percentage. I think it's about 12%. And then customers, that's for everybody. That's for all 185,000 customers who pay zone charges. And then customers in 22 exchanges will either have their zone charges reduced or in some cases eliminated because of realignments of the base rate areas that the Commission has ordered.
The Commission meets next Thursday morning to consider the Directory Assistance Order. Reporting from the Public Service Commission, George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
Alabama Power Company paid Montgomery County its taxes for the year. Local utility head H.M. Taft made the presentation of the over $530,000 in taxes to the county tax collector's office. The money paid to the county is part of over $21.5 million that the utility will pay to the 67 Alabama counties throughout the state in real and property taxes this year. At the same time, 2 news releases were passed out, both relating to the power company's stand that it is severely short of money due to the delay in litigation on a November 22nd Public Service Commission passed rate hike. That rate increase has been in court during the past month, with the utility saying layoffs will result if they can't begin collecting the higher revenues. In one news release, Power Company President Joseph Farley says that the money used to pay their annual taxes had to be borrowed, blaming the loan on their shortage of money. In the second news release, the utility says it's implementing another step in their cutback of employees and expenditures. Alabama Power says following earlier layoffs in the construction fields, they are now curtailing plant expenditures not related to the production of electricity. Invoice payments will be put off as long as possible. Maintenances not essential to power production suspended. Promotions of personnel suspended. Employment of all but critical personnel suspended. Overtime suspended unless in case of emergency. And the list of items suspended continues unless they're directly related to the production of power or to service. However, at the end of the news release, the power company notes that if the litigation on that rate increase continues, the next series of cutbacks will have a serious impact on service. In front of Alabama Power's Montgomery headquarters, Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
They may have 2 defensive All-American tackles, but I have a lot of confidence in our offensive line. You know, they're not All-Americans, but they're trying and they're working at it. And, you know, I think they'll give Penn State all they can handle.
This year, Penn State's averaged 29 points a game. They're a fairly potent offensive team, especially with Fusina. Do you think you'll be able to stop them?
Well, I think that's the key to stopping Penn State, is stopping Vicino and stopping their offensive line. And if we're going to win the game, that's where we have to start.
This afternoon, the Big Barrett here at court in Hannah was robbed by two males. The males had on Halloween masks. We don't have anything other than that at the time. The subjects fled on foot, and the direction of travel is unknown at this time. There were several customers in the store. They made them lay down on the floor. They cut the telephone lines. The witnesses are going to headquarters, and they will take statements. And of course, at this time, some of them were shook up pretty good looking down at that big pistol when they made them lay down on the floor.
The Directory Assistance Repricing Plan includes special provisions to exempt the blind and other handicapped customers of the charges. The PSC order, according to Commission President Juanita McDaniel, provides for 5 free calls to each customer per month. But on each call, a customer will be able to ask for 3 numbers. So the reasoning here is that the customers actually get 15 free listings before they have to pay 20 cents for additional calls over the 5 calls allowed. South Central Bell says the plan approved today will reduce rates for its rural customers.
Coupled with the order today was a reduction, an across-the-board reduction in the zone charge that is paid by rural customers. This zone charge is, of course, designed to partially offset the higher cost of providing service in rural areas, but it's going to mean about a 62% reduction in that zone charge for the almost 200,000 customers who are paying zone charges. So it'll have a direct benefit there. And furthermore, it's going to enable us to hold down the cost of providing directory assistance service in the future. And, of course, that will help us to keep basic rates lower than would be possible otherwise.
Commissioner Jim Ziegler, whose term will end tomorrow upon his resignation, offered an 8-point compromise plan for the original order. 3 points were approved. One would require the telephone company to place in front of the telephone directory a directory assistance plan and how to avoid extra charges. The plan approved today will go into effect on February 5th.
The major parts of my proposal were not adopted. The main objection I had was that this matter was properly decided by the next commission and not by this commission. I do not think that we should have shut out the commissioners who will take office a week from Monday from being able to have the final say-so. I had come up with a way to give the final say-so to the next commission, and it was rejected.
South Central Bell says it anticipates that only 1 out of 10 customers are expected to pay increased directory assistance charges. The order signed today by the Public Service Commission brings to 26 the number of states that charge for directory assistance. 7 states have similar procedures pending. Reporting from the Public Service Commission, George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
It's come to our attention that a bill or a resolution has been prepared or proposed to increase that daily allowance from $50 to either $100 a day or to $75 a day. The 3 of us are opposed to any increase in the income of legislators on the grounds that each of us knew what the pay was at the time we sought the office, and on the further grounds that I think this legislature must take a deep look at the cost of state government, and I think economy, like charity, ought to begin at home.
I'm going to be working this whole time, and my 2 colleagues, Senator Barron and Senator Taylor, are also going to be working on, we're going to be asking state government to operate more efficiently and on the lowest possible sum of money that they can, because there are people in this state, and especially in this district, who are struggling to get by with inflation. And the most inflationary part of our economy is state and federal government spending. And at this point in time, to raise the legislative pay is unconscionable. It's totally ridiculous. And we all campaign on a theme of limiting government spending, and the legislature would not be doing its duty and would be betraying the public trust, in my opinion, if we vote a pay increase for ourselves.
I think we have the potential of having a very effective legislative 4 years. I would hate to see that injured in any way. I feel that at this time it would be very detrimental to the effectiveness of this body if the first thing we did was to grant a great pay increase to the legislative body.
The attorney for the plaintiffs, Howard Mandel, today called 2 witnesses to the stand in his efforts to prove that Alabama State University has discriminated against physics professor Dr. Robert Detchen. Detchen claiming he was not again hired by the university because he is white. Detchen did work with Alabama State University last year to help improve its physics department. Called to the stand today was the director of the Federal Relations Department of Alabama State University, Isaac Sanders. Sanders, on the stand, said that grants to the university had been reduced by some 6.5%.
but he conceded that about a 33% cut was made in allocations to the physics department. He defended by saying that the physics program was in the process of being eliminated anyway. Another contention brought out by Mandel was that 2 additional grants could have been combined to hire Detchen, something the second witness, Physics Department head Susanta Goraya, suggested but failed to accomplish. Detchen holds that those 2 grants were ultimately used to hire 2 blacks of lower academic qualifications. Goraya, the head of the department, says he would rather have had the 1 PhD than the 2 graduate assistants. In between the 2 plaintiffs called witnesses, defense attorney Solomon Say called a witness from the Physics Consortium's assistant university, Dr. Robert Thorpe of Howard University. Thorpe testified that physics programs in the 12-institution consortium had all suffered cutbacks, including the elimination of slots for professors. The trial is still not over. The attorney for the plaintiffs has 1 or 2 more witnesses he plans to call before resting his case. Then defense attorney Solomon Say will have his opportunity. Following all of that, Federal Judge Johnson will then have the responsibility of determining whether or not Alabama State University has in fact been failing to comply with the September 1st consent decree and whether or not Robert Detchen was actually discriminated against. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
A report that the price of a hamburger may go up as much as 50 cents a pound next year has been disputed by the National Cattlemen's Association. That prediction of soaring meat prices was made by the American Meat Institute, but the cattle growers claim the price rise will be more like 12 to 18 cents a pound. The time now is about 34 minutes past the hour, and here's Alana Davis.
Thank you, Chuck. Here's what Georgia Pacific is doing with the paper we've always taken for granted.
It was the mid-50s, and in New York they showered 250 tons of ticker tape on the hero of the day. And the day after, the waste was